what are these educational goals, do you think? I mean, my take on that would be, just in watching what kind of news has been going on, that we are a Christian nation. This very kind of thing that we've seen with church and state, is unconstitutional according to their teachings. I think another one is that they'll try to get more creationism in school, prayer back in school. Do you see that type of thing as part of the education mountain, as we call it, or?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's what it is, and they do. They call it any number of things, including what Cynthia Dunbar referred to it, but a friend and fellow researcher and writer, and a walk away from the Quiverful movement, which is an extreme, side of Christian Dominionism. She told me that they refer to it as institutions of Satan. So, it's all the same theme. But basically, what they're angling to do is just to create indoctrination centers. When they're not talking about freedom of religion. It's not about freedom of religion. It's about freedom of their religion. They're not talking about, all churches. They're talking about their church. There is no way that they would ever advocate for freedom of other religions. And as your previous guest pointed out, particularly, other Christian religions. I've been told many, many times that I'm not the right kind of Christian because I'm not of the born-again Dominionist ilk. But that would include...
And then, atheists, non-believers, people like that, too. I mean, it's really bad for them right now. My gosh, you've got people like Bill Donahue out there, on the news talking about how horrible, secularism is, and then Newt Gingrich is talking about that we need to stop this tide of secularism. It really is my version of Christianity or no way at all. So from your perspective, how can people make a difference?
Well, and one more thing real quickly that I'd like to say that I don't think people are also associating with this, which I think is highly dangerous, is that it's also a way to spew out a whole generation of indoctrinated students into, which, for example, right now, we're seeing the results of these kids who were put into Joel's Army camps back when they were little kids that are now coming out and enlisting in our volunteer army, and they actually think we're at a holy war with Islam. It would just increase those numbers, and it would create a far more bigger threat militarily to our country, and that's a huge consideration that I don't think people understand. We can do what Texas Freedom Network is advocating, which is contact the Texas legislature, whether we live there or not, just inundate them, because we have to realize that it is our responsibility to also advocate for these children in Texas, even if we don't know them or don't live there. We contact our own legislators and let them know that we would like propositions or proposals just exactly like what we're seeing happen in California, so that we can ban the purchase of these revisionist history books in our state. Contact your local school boards and contact your local school officials and ask them if there are any, lingering purchase orders sitting there ready to go, and why they would be spending money to buy something like that. And it really will make a difference.
Fantastic. Well, good. I'm going to keep you on the line here, and then if you want to, jump in, because our next guest, Chris Rodda, is also with Military Religious Freedom Foundation. So if you want to chime in as we go, just push, there's I don't know if you push pound or 1 or, try either one of those, and then your hand will pop up. I'll see you in the switchboard, okay? And thanks for putting up with the rings and the busy switchboard here. Okay, so our next guest is Chris Rodda, and she has authored a book called Liars for Jesus, which is just this incredible compendium of lies, basically, put out by David Barton. And we're going to learn a little bit about who he is. And, at first you might think the word using the word liar in a book is a little extreme, but once you start reading it, it's like, you know what? These are lies. Let's call the kettle black here. And there are so many of these distorted truths that are being put out by the Christian right. Number one, towards the gays. There was just an article out on Huffington Post about how all these religious studies, not religious studies, medical studies, psychological studies, scientific studies are being warped and twisted and just little pieces taken out in order to support their agenda. And then we see this towards the secularists. We're seeing it now towards history. And the king of kings when it comes to distortion is this David Barton. And back in 2009, April, the Texas Freedom Network and Right Wing Watch reported that the Texas State Board of Education appointed experts to guide them with the revision of their social studies curriculum. And for anyone who received the newsletter, I had a typo in there. I said it was the governor. It was the board that appointed this man. These new experts included David Barton of the fundamentalist Texas-based group called Wall Builders, whose degree is in religious education, not the social sciences, and the Reverend Peter Marshall of Peter Marshall Ministries in Massachusetts, who suggests that California wildfires and Hurricane Katrina were divine punishments for tolerance of homosexuality. You know, and if that's not alarming enough as far as these people being on the board or as experts to the Board of Education, Wall Builders' stated goal that on their website says that it's to exert a direct and positive influence in government, education, and the family by, one, educating the nation concerning the godly foundation of our country, two, providing information to federal, state, and local officials as they develop public policies which reflect biblical values, and three, encouraging Christians to be involved in the civic arena. And so with that, I'd like to introduce Chris. Chris Rodda, thank you so much for joining us on the God Discussion Show.
I'm glad to be here.
Well, and you are Senior Research Director at Military Religious Freedom Foundation, as well as the author of this incredible book, Liars for Jesus. And you have a website, liarsforjesus.com, where people can buy the book. And one of the things that just blows my mind about what you have on that website is that you have got like this footnote resource. Yes. And a lot of these things, you know, to try to find out what's the truth and what's not the truth, you'd almost have to get copies from the National Archives, and that's very difficult to do. But you have actually provided copies, images of these documents on your website that people can actually look at.